I'll be talking about the recent Bitcoin price action. I'll also be talking about how people are still benefiting at these low prices and how can they still be profitable. And finally, I'll give some thoughts on a possible conspiracy theory and how this could be a potential setup for a big rally to the upside. So if you're curious about this, just chill and keep watching. Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is your host, the Cheeky Entrepreneur, and let's head to some technical analysis on Bitcoin. So from last video, I pointed out that you can do some trend lines and how to actually start adapting to where the price is moving. And in this last time, I pointed out that there was this kind of small uptrend that could be a converging pattern with this downtrend. And generally, it's well, the most profitable way to trade it's to trade the breakouts, right? But sometimes you have to wait for confirmation, and well, a good thing to do is actually waiting at the end of the candle to see if this is a true move or not. For instance, here, yeah, it might seem that it broke this trend line, but in reality, if you have waited out until the end of the hour, you would have seen that it went back up. But generally, one of the best opportunities to trade is actually when you break, for instance, in this scenario, you break and then you have an extra confirmation that the price is lower than that trend line. And usually, well, not always, but usually you will get a retest. And this retest is a good confirmation that the price is actually gonna go down because it's retesting this trend line. So a good way and probably the less risky way is to trade to the downtrend once it retests this trend line. And if you would have shorted Bitcoin in then you would have actually profited. And you can do this in a lot of ways to the upside or even to the downside. For instance, even here, you would have waited until this retest. If this would have broken down and it would have this green candle would have ended up right like in here, it would have been another good opportunity because well, it's breaking all-time lows, but usually you need to retest those levels in order to get some confirmation. But in any case, I'm gonna move on to uh, who is actually profiting, and let's see some shorts. We've been seeing the shorts are increasing right now, and potentially that might be because of the bigger confidence in breaking that 6K level. But also, if you look at the longs, they're been growing very massively, and that's sometimes a bit of a concern. And the reason is because when you get a lot of shorts or you get a lot of longs, you might have a small bubble and usually they break down because people try to push the price lower. So it's totally possible that right now, because of those big volumes, people are really trying to drive the price down so that they can basically long squeeze these people, and then they can drive the price even lower. Because you need to understand that in trading, you have two sides. You either buy or sell a contract, right? And whenever you buy, if you want to exit that contract, you have to sell. So you're becoming bearish in that sense. So the same is happening in the opposite way. If you sell a contract, then you have to buy it back. So what happens is that if you're doing this leverage trading, you have a liquidation point where you cannot sustain the losses. And then if you, for instance, long and the price kept going down, then what end up happening is that since you can't pay, your position is closed. But that close is really a sell position. So that's when you get all these breakouts because the positions are being liquidated, and that's driving the price even lower because it's basically like a sell position of the same quantity. So that's basically what you get in these levels, and that's why the price go really way down because a lot of people have their stop losses around here, the 5.9 scenario. And when you have someone with enough money to drive the price down, you actually start hitting all those liquidation points, and people start unwillingly selling out. And there's also something else that I want to talk about, and it's kind of like a conspiracy theory, as I mentioned in the intro. And one of the things that I'm really skeptical about this price is basically the media. You know, the media has been really silent, and I know that you are gonna say, yeah, there is news about Bitcoin every day. You can see CNBC, you can see all this. But if you compare it to 2017, and I wanted to head to this price, you know, are at around like 7K when we were hitting the 7K around here, the media started talking a lot. They were covering crypto, and everyone and their mother were talking about crypto. Like it was just ridiculous the amount of people talking, and it was the hot topic right then. And this is actually one of the reasons why the price pumped up, because you have suddenly advertisements everywhere, just everywhere. You know, Facebook, Google, everything was crypto, ICOs, everything was it was a massive marketing. And that's also the reason why people got this fear of missing out or FOMO, because they were like, no, this is going up. And people, for instance, in here, they were like, no, this is a bubble, it's going to explode. And when it went down, they were like, ah, I told you. And then it went back up and it broke the levels. And those people were like, if I don't get now, I will not get at all. And I'm going to be missing out. And that's what drives the price up, right? But after this huge peak, yeah, of course it went down, but right now, you would expect a lot of people be talking about, oh yeah, we told you so. It was a bubble. This was a scam all the way. We market that before. You didn't listen, but it's not really. That's not really happening, you know. And you have sites like Facebook and Google banning ads at these specific points, you know, and that's also closing the gate to a lot of people because you know this is also a market. You need to market as clients, and you need marketing for the price to go up because that's more clients and that's more demand. So when you're closing the marketing in that sense, you're really sending bad signals, and you were basically cutting off the demand, right? So that's why the price has been going down. And also, reason what I wanted to talk about this is because people don't only benefit while buying; they can also benefit while selling. As I mentioned in previous videos, people can, for instance, be uh, on on longs. I mean, could be shorting the price with leverage, and with the amount of Bitcoin that they have, they can sell it and they can benefit from the price. And even though they can actually, for instance, let's say in here, if you had 100 Bitcoin and you sell 80 Bitcoin and you depreciate the price in here, you can, with those 20 Bitcoin left, you can actually leverage this and you can depress the price. And yes, yeah, you're gonna lose because of the bleeding of the price range, but because of the leverage, you're actually gonna profit all around. And the opposite, it's true. For instance, if you have 80 Bitcoin, 100 Bitcoin, you can sell 80 Bitcoin, depreciate the price, and then get with those 20, leverage them times 100, and you will potentially have 200 Bitcoin in here, and you can buy back with the amount of money that you sold. And if you buy back, you're gonna increase the price, and due to the leverage, you are actually gonna benefit in the long term, right? And that's something worth considering. And all this conspiracy theory wraps up because right now you actually saw the news. For instance, Facebook has well, is reversed its ban on the ads for cryptocurrencies, and you can't be like, well, I'm skeptic. I'm thinking, why right now? Why at this precise moment? And it's really important to understand that this is basically gonna open the marketing again, right? It's gonna open the opportunity for people to know more about this, and again, possibly getting in. And you're gonna allow some companies to get in this marketing. And it's also interesting because there's a lot of uplift bans on ICOs and how they're actually letting people. Well, they're gonna like ban ICOs and only allow real investors to put their money in, and you start asking, well, they are actually making people that can invest, people like anyone basically put their money in and just letting huge investors go in, which makes you think, okay, that's what happens with IPOs. You know, not everyone can just invest in those, and that's because there's kind of an inner circle of people who are potentially buying good opportunities and why they should benefit because they basically have the capital. One of the things that I think it could be a confirmation of this is basically these huge prices, huge increase in price. As you've seen it here, it's kind of actually ironic that you see that the price, more or less the average of this candle, it's around the 6K. And that made me think, okay, maybe there's someone huge buying in and just putting his money in and setting up for a huge potential upward trend. So I think, I mean, again, this is more of ideas. It's nothing like there's no way to prove it. It's always good to speculate. It's always good to let the imagination run any time and then. But sometimes you would be surprised that these things happen more than you think, and price manipulation and all that. It's a thing that happens, and crypto is not liquid enough to be regulated to the point that they can actually take this out of the equation, right? So, I mean, if we see another huge candle around these levels, I think, well, for me, that would be another signal of, okay, maybe someone is actually manipulating the price and it's getting in, it's trying to average his price at 6K. And my predictions is that this is going to consolidate at this price range between like 6.2 and 5.8. And it's gonna consolidate until this trend line, and possibly if they put all their money in at that price, it's gonna retest this downtrend, and we can actually see a breakthrough and a potential reversal on these low prices. But we will have to see, and also we will have to keep an eye on the news and all this media and all these Facebook ads that are going to happen and how that plays out. But it's definitely interesting just to think about it and to see what the opportunities and really have a bigger picture on what this market is and how could you actually benefit from this. Just to end this episode, I'm gonna head to this news. Of course, I'll always tell you to do your own research and to read this news on your own. I'm not really gonna read everything on this note, but South Korea reviews its stance on crypto to become a blockchain haven. And this is really important because there's a lot of countries that are pro blockchain, and they know that it's kind of like the next revolution in terms of technology. And I've discussed the difference between cryptos and blockchain and how blockchain is basically the technology behind the cryptocurrencies. And that in itself is going to revolutionize the way that we actually see the world and how we actually do trading and how we actually do a lot because you can implement it pretty much everywhere. It's really where your imagination you just can stop. And there's a lot of really good applications that are appearing nowadays, and it's really interesting what people can actually do with blockchain technology. Uh, but well, regardless of that, crypto has also its own place. You know, if you've been into this business and if you've been trading and you've been reading news and really trying to understand and doing your own research, you will know that there's a place for crypto. But I think the biggest thing is, of course, blockchain technology on itself. So I'm just gonna read some of the quotes. But basically, they're reverting their ban on ICOs, and the reason is because they realize that ICOs equals a lot of money, and if you want your country to keep continue, you have to be at the forefront of the technology. You have to be open to these new technologies and companies if you want to keep on the edge, right? And this is what South Korea is doing right now. And for instance, they talk about the legislation and say the primary goal of the legislation is helping remove uncertainties facing blockchain-related businesses. And this is really big due to the ICOs, for instance, and real companies that want to implement blockchain and want to implement, for instance, their own cryptocurrencies, because there's a reason to do that. It's not like companies are just doing ICOs just for the sake of doing ICOs. I mean, it's been a way. It's the newest way to create like a crowdfunding. You know, you have like the normal crowdfunding with different pages. You have venture capital. You have angel investors. So it's a different method to get money and to get funds to initiate a project. And I think it's a really good method because you are benefiting the people who are crowdfunding basically in a way that if the project well is successful, all the investors are gonna benefit in a way. Finally, well, I'm gonna read this quote. We need to form a task force, including private experts, in order to improve transparency of cryptocurrency trading and establishing a healthy trade order. We will also establish a legal basis for cryptocurrency trading, including permission of ICOs through the National Assembly Standing Community. And this is something really important. I mean, we were talking about legislation, and in my point of view, legislations in regards to tax are somewhat weird because it's not really comfortable. And I'm not saying because you need to pay taxes, and there's a reason why we pay taxes. But when they say, yeah, for every transaction that you make, you're gonna have to pay like 20% on this, on that, it's really inconvenient because of the nature of cryptos and how easy it is to buy and sell and how to keep track of all that. So I think they gotta evolve with regulations. That definitely needs to happen because if they want this to be successful, I mean, they already know that this is gonna stay for the long run, and they know that there's kind of like a place for cryptos, and they just need to figure out how they're actually gonna regulate this. But for instance, here it says improve transparency of cryptocurrency trading and establish a healthy trade order, and I think that's a must right now. Like we've been going through this price manipulation and all the things that I've been telling you, and this is something that's happening. Like, even if you, I mean, I'm bringing this into a point of, oh yeah, conspiracy theory because I don't have enough data. But I can see enough signs for me to start thinking that that's a possibility. And a lot of people know that price manipulation is happening. And the reason is because it's feasible, and if it's feasible to do it, people are probably gonna abuse it. And I think that's the main point right here. But with regulations, we can start changing that. Of course, one of the things that they can't regulate is it's until we have a stronger liquidity. When this market is actually bigger, they can start doing that. But at this point, I think it's still detrimental because any regulations might push back investors instead of bringing them over. But we saw like past news with Facebook. It's really impressive that what they're doing is basically saying, okay, if you have you know if you have permits and if you have all these sorts of regulatory uh, points on your favor, we're actually gonna be putting your ads up, and I think that's something really important, and that's what a lot of the ICOs that went after these boards are gonna be, in my opinion, the most legit projects and are really gonna be the successful ones. And well, we'll see how that plays off. But anyways, I thank you for watching. If you like this video, please push that like button. If you didn't, push that dislike button. It let me know about the content in general. And I appreciate you being here, and I'll see you in the next video.